Welcome aboard Rocket Ship, the platform with the most relevant content for competitive examinations. This is Rocket Ship IAS Lab and continuing with our series on answer writing for general studies papers of civil service main examination. We take up a question that you might come across in GS paper 1. Here goes the question. What according to you are reasons why sugar industry has not been as successful in Bihar and West Bengal despite these states having favorable conditions? As you can see, this is a question that can be actually quite easy one because it's a straightforward question in the sense that the question requires you to talk of the reasons, the probable reasons actually, why a particular phenomenon has failed to, you could say, take place in two states of India despite these states having conditions favorable for that particular phenomenon, that is a development of sugar industry to the same extent as it has developed in states, for an example, like Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, etc. Now, we are introducing our answer with a piece of statistics, that is, India is a world leader in sugar production, contributing to almost 19% of world output in 2024-25. As is well known that India and Brazil are among the largest producers of sugar. Actually, these two countries generally trade place with each other for the, you could say, top sugar producer in the world. And India's share in the production, as we are mentioning it here, is almost 19%. This figure is actually easy to remember also because you can actually connect it with India's share in world population, that is more than 17%, that is more than almost reaching 18%. And in the same vein, India's share in world sugar production is almost 19%. What we are doing here now with this paragraph, this is actually still more important for your answer and in fact for your entire UPSC journey. That is, the sugar industry is of vital importance to India as it directly employs half a million persons and supports the livelihood of 50 million sugarcane farmers. Now you can understand very well that for a labor surplus country like India, any industry that can you could say employ people in mass, and in case it can support many more livelihoods, it would be of great importance for a country like ours, and which we can see in the case of sugar industry as well, where it indirectly supports the livelihood of almost 5 crore farmers while it directly employs almost half a million, that is almost 5 lakh persons. Now, coming off the top producers of sugar in India, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu are leaders in sugar production in that order. That is, Uttar Pradesh comes first and Tamil Nadu comes fourth. Now, at the first glance, Bihar and West Bengal have conditions propitious, that is favorable for sugarcane farming and conditions requisite to develop sugar industry. What are these conditions? They have alluvial loamy soil well suited for sugarcane and have abundant source of irrigation in the large number of rivers crisscrossing the plains of Bihar and Bengal. As you can understand very well that the sugarcane crop, it requires a particular kind of, you could say, soil, that is the sandy loamy, not sandy, actually loamy alluvial soil, which is present in you could say great plains of India, and it is actually much more deep in parts of Bengal and Bihar. Moreover, Bengal and Bihar have many small and in fact big rivers also crisscrossing the plains of Bihar and Bengal, which can provide, so you could say, irrigation, which are sources of irrigation. Their huge populations create viable markets, that is their demand for sugar is quite, you could say, handsome to support a particular size of the industry, and this Large population base also supply cheap labor for the sugar mills. Despite these just discussed advantages, Bihar and Bengal have not been able to capitalize on the opportunity that is sugar industry. Again, we have discussed while these states do indeed have conditions favorable for sugarcane farming as well as sugar industry, developing sugar industry, they have not been as successful in developing the sugar industry. This has been due to a number of factors, some of which are structural, while others due to evident gaps in policies. That is, there have been some gaps in policy formulation as well as implementation, due to which these states have failed to, you could say, scale up sugar industry. Now, coming to why Bihar and Bengal could not capitalize on the sugar opportunity, these have been due to many reasons, taking which one by one. First is comparatively less developed cooperative sector. Actually, this has been observed that the cooperative sector is most suitable, it is most suited for developing sugar industry. This we can observe from the example of states like Maharashtra and to some extent Uttar Pradesh also, that the cooperative sector has some, you could say, distinct advantages over, you could say, privately owned sugar mills for scaling up the sugar industry. And unfortunately, the cooperative sector is not as much developed in Bihar and Bengal. Comparison posed by jute mills. This is again a very particular, you could say, condition to West Bengal and to some extent for Bihar as well, that they already had an industry that could have been, in fact, a better substitute for sugar industry. That is, they had jute industry, and due to the jute industry being already there, they did not focus as much on sugar industry. Then comes their failure to diversify into alcohol production, utilization of bagasse, etc. Actually, the raw material, not the raw materials, actually the byproducts of the sugar industry, for an example, sugarcane molasses, etc., they have commercial as well as, you could say, industrial uses. For an example, they can be used for alcohol production. Similarly, the residue left after juice extraction from sugarcane can be utilized for, you could say, as we would see ahead, for paper, pulp, etc. But this was not in focus in Bihar and to some extent in Bengal as well, because these two states, they did not think of diversifying into alcohol production, or for that matter utilizing the bagasse for commercial purpose. Due to this failure, they, what it meant that the sugar mills in these two states were much less commercially viable, because they lost on an additional source of revenue. These states, especially Bihar, had quite some restrictive policies, an example being sugar levy for the periods. What sugar levy meant, that the sugar mills had to apportion, they had to set aside some of the sugar produced for the public distribution system, and they had to, you could say, supply the public distribution system on a much lesser price than the prevailing prices in the market. We would repeat it. Under the scheme of sugar levy, the mills had to supply the PDS, that is the public distribution system, at a price much less than the prevailing prices in the market. That meant that the sugar mills were losing on their profit. They had, you could say, much slimmer margin than the sugar mills elsewhere. Taking up these points in detail, success of sugar industry in Maharashtra and to lesser extent in Uttar Pradesh is generally attributed to cooperative sector. The cooperative structure brings the farmers the benefits of cooperative sector being, it brings the farmers healthier margins, undertakes infrastructure development, and acts as an organized industry group with powerful voice. What you can understand, that due to the organized nature of the cooperative sector, they have a much more, you could say, a strong voice, and this voice can actually you could say influence policy formulation, or for that matter implementation. That is, they can actually influence whatever policy that would be favorable for the sugar industry. Alas, this has been lacking in the case of Bihar and Bengal. That is, the cooperative sector is not as much developed in Bihar and Bengal. Traditionally, as we were just talking about, West Bengal had a well-developed jute sector. This meant sugar industry did not get as much attention because there was already a substitute available for the sugar industry. Moreover, this is a very pertinent point for our present discussion, that the byproducts of sugar milling have commercial application. Molasses are source of industrial and consumable alcohol. Bagasse can be used as raw material for paper pulp, packaging material, and power generation as well. This did not get the required attention in Bihar. Actually, those days, while we are talking of, you could say, almost 2 decades back, those days these things were not in fashion. That is, alcohol extraction, especially for blending in fuel, or for that matter utilizing the bagasse for paper pulp production, or for that matter packaging material, etc., was not even in fashion. That meant the mills in Bihar, and to some extent in Bengal as well, they lost on this opportunity, this commercial opportunity, this ancillary commercial opportunity. They lost on this. That meant their margin were quite slimmer. Their margin were, you could say, quite thin compared to the mills elsewhere. Moreover, Bihar's sugar mills closed during the pre-liberalization era. Most of the sugar mills in Bihar had failed during the pre-liberalization era, that is before 1991. The mills were forced to reserve some sugar for the public distribution system at lower prices, that is often called the levy sugar, rendering them unviable, because it would become, they were getting much less price than was commercially viable for them. That meant they ultimately proved to be, you could say, unviable. Now, to end on a positive note, nevertheless, with recent developments like ethanol blending, nowadays you can understand very well, you do have this idea that government of India is focusing on ethanol blending, that is adding ethanol on, you could say, in petrol or diesel, that is in fuel. There is hope that Bihar and West Bengal can realize these prospects. If space and time permits, you can also add that GOI, that is Government of India, has recently, you could say, come up with a scheme for sugar plants in Bihar, especially for subsidizing them and to upgrade them for ethanol production, etc. Almost 4 dozen sugar mills in Bihar are eligible for this, you could say, subsidy based scheme from Government of India. This was all on Bihar and Bengal's failure to scale up their sugar industry to the same extent as other states in India, despite these 2 states having conditions favorable for the sugar industry. This is how we end for today. We would reassemble for the next lecture in a few days. As usual, we wish you all the best. Thank you.